Yeah, I work for the Institute for Advanced Studies in Vienna, Austria. We are an applied economic research agency with a basic funding from the Austrian Ministry of Finance. And mostly we conduct commissioned research projects for all kinds of public administrations, of course also for the Ministry of Finance and the tax administration, but also for all other kinds of public administrations, the Ministry of Economics or the Ministry of Climate, Environmental Protections, and so on. In addition to that, we do basic research, and I also teach at the university. Actually, for me, this is also a new experience because I just joined this team about a year ago. Before I was at different universities in Austria, Germany, and Australia. And here at the Institute for Advanced Studies, I joined the Inside Austria team, or it's also called Nudge Unit. Maybe you have this kind of unit in Canada too, I don't know, but many countries have nudge units. That means you apply empirical based, behavioral based data to social problems, all kinds of problems, also tax collection, but it can be also how to motivate people to use more or to cycle more instead of using the car. How can you motivate them to recycle and not just throw away waste? What else do we do? We also advised the city of Vienna concerning the corona measures and so on. So all kinds of issues. We collect them on our table and try to find solutions based on psychological and behavioral economic literature, based on best practices. And then we test them in field experiments. This means that we implement different kinds of measures and observe how they develop over time, and then compare how it worked out compared to a control condition. And based on that, we then know, okay, this is what works. This is actually what I do most of the time. Yeah. The experience with the tax administration, sorry. I work on tax research for more than 10 years, mostly at universities. And based on that, of course, I collaborated with many tax administrations in Austria, with different European tax administrations, the Netherlands, Germany, maybe I forget some, Estonia and so on, but also outside of Europe with Pakistan, and I think with some countries in South America. And mostly I conduct research with them. We do field experiments with the Austrian tax authorities. I did a field experiment, or we do interview studies. So I interviewed many experienced tax officers to find out how they manage to build up a good relationship with taxpayers. I also analyzed the data from tax authorities, questionnaire data they collected, and other kind of data. And of course, like with you, I was invited at conferences, not just from single tax administrations, but also from the OECD or from European Union, for example, or European Commission, where I just tell them about my research, which mostly is published and available to everyone who is interested. I think I published like 30 mostly peer-reviewed papers, but also book chapters, and one book also on the things I work. Well, in Austria, we have some digital leaders. So some companies use advanced technologies and so on. But to be honest, this is an exception. In general, many businesses in Austria still concentrate on the traditional business models. They hope that customers would personally show up in their shops and buy something. So we definitely have to motivate more businesses to engage in the digitalization. Well, within Europe, there is a high diversity, and concerning digital competences, I would say the most advanced, depending on what you look like. For example, if it's about online selling, it's Ireland. If it's about teaching people to get digital knowledge, or to learn digital skills, then I would say it's Sweden and so on. And Denmark, also the Netherlands are pretty good. We try to keep up. And this is the business side. On the other hand, the tax administration, I would say, is really advanced. The tax administration in Austria offers all kinds of very easy digital services and possibilities to submit your tax return. The online setting is very easy. So I think normally you shouldn't even need a tax practitioner for doing your taxes. I have to say this is really well developed. And plus, and I think this is also important, it's not just that the digital setup is there, but it's also supported by very motivated and engaged tax officers. Well, I say that because I think many of them also read my papers, and this is what I always preach. We have to respect taxpayers. If they call us, we have to try to help them and be very, very active in trying to help them to comply and not to catch them doing something wrong. And my personal feeling is that in Austria this developed really good. We have a very good, very easy digital platform to allow people to comply. And if there is a question, you can call, immediately somebody will pick up and will treat you with a lot of respect. And if I think back, when I did my first tax return, more than 10 years, I didn't know anything about taxes. I actually didn't even realize that I'm now a taxpayer. And I called there, and it was really not a good experience. It was very, why don't you know that, and so on and so forth. So, and my feeling is, my experience is that this really improved a lot. And I think that, this is an important step forward to generate trust in the population and to raise tax compliance motivation. And in the end, I also think it will bring in more money. For sure, all kinds of machine learning and big data analysis can help us. And I also think that many tax administrations still need to do some more work here. We have some, for example, in Europe, the tax administration in Estonia is really advanced concerning all kinds of digital technologies concerning tax collection. But Estonia in general, it's a population, they love the digital life. They even, I have the feeling sometimes they want to become digital themselves. So it's a very high acceptance in the society to also just interact in these digital ways. And the computer says, do you accept this tax return? Yes. And for an Estonian, this is something good. Whereas in Austria, people would like to see in more detail what you actually did. The trust towards technologies is not that high. So depending on that, it also it differentiates how much technology you can use when interacting with the citizens. But nonetheless, on the tax administration side, we definitely can use and utilize much more all of these new nice technologies to analyze data. And we even could combine these new methods of analyzing data with, for example, experimental methods. So, for example, you have a setup, your website where people interact with you, and if you nicely connect this with new analyzing methods, then you can change little things and immediately see the impact, what's happening if I change these little things. And based on that, based on this trial and error process, we can constantly advance our interaction with the taxpayers, and we constantly can much more meet the needs of our customers in the end, or I would even say our partners. So I think these new technologies matched with traditional experimental methods, I think Google is doing this anyways, but we at the administration side also should do this. We should constantly advance our processes, our interaction. And so I think there are many new opportunities. I lived for a long time in Germany. I just recently returned to Austria. I'm Austrian. In Germany, they have a really nice new unit which only tries to utilize these kinds of technologies. I don't know whether in Austria they also implemented already artificial intelligence, but in the end, artificial intelligence is not such a miracle. In the end, it just means that you imply automatized statistical methods to the data. So it's not a miracle. Often people say, "Oh, it's something you don't understand," and the machine then tells you, I don't know, it's like a ghost in the machine. But in the end, it's just loops of statistical, mostly regressions, run over the data based on the new results. They run again and so on. I'm not an expert in it, but it definitely makes sense. It's machine learning. It's using these big data and analyzing methods, and I think it's an advantage. We definitely should try to make the best out of it, but it only works if we also have a good quality of data, and that's maybe a problem because the way tax administration collect data is often not prepared for these new possibilities. At least the last time I saw the way how data is collected, it's like a huge data wheel that constantly changes. You have to more or less freeze it, and based on that you can extract the data, but that's still not done automatically. But maybe many things changed since I saw it, and definitely some tax administrations are very advanced. But what I wanted to say is, if you want to use these new methods, already you have to start to collect the data in a different way, in a more advanced and better way, because if the data the input determines the output. So if the data you put into the systems is not very valid, then also these new methods will not tell you anything, because basically the data is not valid. It doesn't tell you real things. You never know who really filled in tax forms and so on. It's not so trivial to get good data. And before we can use these new technologies, we have to ensure that data collection is done in a proper way. What is the challenge? I think on a short-term perspective, it's really all the consequences related to the corona pandemic, because from all the data I know, it seems that many businesses, many individuals now experienced a financial shock. So they lost money, and it seems, or it's very likely, that they want to get the money back by cheating taxes, basically. By cheating taxes and by tax avoidance, they try to make up this financial loss, and this is something that should be that should get our attention, because it's only a short-term thing on the one hand. So people try to get back the money, and maybe after a year or two they should go back to their former tax compliance behavior. However, I fear if they now see, it's easy to evade taxes or to avoid taxes, then they could become used to do it, and somehow a habit forms. That means that right now we should, I think, it's not nice, but we should intensify friendly monitoring activities. We have to differentiate between businesses who aggressively cheat on taxes, and between businesses who actually just cheat on taxes to survive. And of course, the first group, it's easy to handle. We have to apply all legal and measures to stop them and to get back our money. But for the other group, I think we really should be very carefully to help them to survive illegal forms. Maybe they don't even know what to do. For example, we could offer tax exemptions, or maybe offer them, hey, you could pay your taxes next year or some, I don't know. Every country has other opportunities, but the point is, maybe instead of just immediately punishing them really severely, we could just say, like, okay, we found out that you maybe cheated. We see that your business is actually, it's a solid business. It's just because of Corona you have these troubles. But look, there are other opportunities for you You don't have to cheat on taxes. You can do other things. Of course, we have to observe whether this company next year behaves okay again, and then we also should be stricter. But the point is, now we should just communicate we're still here, and it's not like a trivial thing, or it's not so, let's say, in German it's called Kavaliersvergehen. It's not let's say it's not good to cheat on taxes, even though you really need the money now, something like this, and we should help them to be compliant again. This would be my short-term thing for the tax authorities. And on the long-term perspective, well, I think we have to work to get more money from the wealthy and from really large corporations. That's a very, very big issue. That we lose so much money to Google and Amazon, but also to rich individuals who legally can just avoid most of the money that normally should be paid, I would say. And for this, we have to find a solution, because the problems, the corona pandemic, but also all the other things, we have big problems concerning our climate. We have big problems concerning migration, and we need the money urgently. So the question is, where can we get it from? And I think this discussion will come up shortly after the pandemic. Now our countries just spend money, but when this phase is over, we have to talk where do the money will come from now. And then we also have to involve the wealthy somehow, the one way or the other. My approach is that we cannot. They are rich and they have many opportunities, and so we shouldn't. I think we need somehow force, of course, but I also think we should apply much more nuanced and better ways to motivate them to join our societal forces to fight all of these problems. And there, I think we should really put much more focus on. Of course, this is a political issue as well, but maybe also tax administrations can do things to motivate the wealthy to become again a contributor to our budgets. And I think this is really essential, because some people, we have segments in the population. I mean, it's not new. If you look at the history, there were only exceptions, but most of the time the wealthy didn't pay much. It's not really new, but nonetheless, we live in advanced democracies, and maybe we now can also get much more money from the wealthy than maybe in the Middle Ages. So we should at least try, and we should motivate them, and we should see them as partners, and together we can solve our problems. Not fight against them, but try to make a partnership, and to see how we could build up a working relationship to solve these problems. Because in the end, where should the money come from? I mean, I can think of other opportunities how to get the money, but they are maybe not so acceptable, like trying to get their voluntary compliance. So I think this is the issue for the next decades. But I hope it's we solve it earlier. But definitely we should focus much more on that issue. I think what we need is, if we want voluntary tax compliance, we need to interact in a very respectful way with our taxpayers, with the honest taxpayers. Most of the taxpayers are honest. And with those who are non-compliant, we have to apply a nice way of strict monitoring. So the first thing is we have to differentiate the population between those who somehow just not manage to comply and others who aggressively try to exploit the system. And then to get the voluntary compliance, we have to apply specific tactics to each of these groups. And if you interact with a very motivated and honest taxpayer, you have to use lots of respect and services and things like that. And if you interact with a non-compliant taxpayer, you also should be very respectful, but in addition, you should show that you really have the means to enforce the law if it's necessary. Overall, I think what's in the general perspective very important is the feeling that we are improving, that we are going forward, that our society, our public institutions constantly work to become better, and that we can prove to our citizens that, look, in the 50s, our health system had these problems, and now we solved them. And you know why? Because we had the financial means to educate our society to implement these new processes or these new technologies, for example. So if people see that there is a progress to the better and that they were also part of it and that their financial contributions are important for this progress, then they trust the system, and that makes everything much more easier. And everything I know tells me it also increases tax compliance. So this is one option to increase trust, to show people that it's worth trusting you because you're really doing a good job. This is somehow obvious, but we really provide evidence. Look, this is what we achieved in the last decades together as a society. This helps. And of course, also involving people much more in all kinds of processes, allowing voice. And there are many options how you can involve people in collecting taxes, spending taxes, in the tax processes. Wherever you have the opportunity to allow people to have some voice, you should use it. And if it's just about when do you have time for an appointment, this is already a first step. Well, I think the first one is trivial. Yeah, we need constantly, we need good trainings for our tax staff, for the tax administration, for the people who work there. We need exchange programs. Maybe we need somehow the possibility to go to the university, to come back, to go to other countries. All things that help people to become better concerning legal things, concerning managerial things, also concerning psychological skills. I think what we really need is a platform. The best would be if it would be globally, internationally shared, and all tax administrations would contribute with their experiences. It has to be systematically, of course. So, for example, you could search for specific questions, and then the experiences of a specific tax administration would pop up. Even with a contact name, you could call, you could motivate, based on that, you could motivate tax administrations to share also failures. For example, people often are, they feel bad, they tried something out and then it didn't work. But that's not bad, it's something where others can learn from, because if nobody tells about it, then everyone tries again and fails, but nobody talks about it. So we should have an open knowledge sharing platform where people include all the things they know and all the things they found out work or don't work. Ideally, this would also include, of course, academic research papers, well set up so that you easily can find what you're looking for, and that this would allow us to build upon our own experiences and to constantly come up with better ideas. Because this is why I want to have that. I often meet people from tax administrations and they tell me really innovative things, but they never publish it. So how can I ever know? And that's, I think, that's sad, because it's lost knowledge. People put so much effort and work in it, and in the end it's lost because besides themselves, nobody knows about it. And this is something that would be nice if this would change in the future. And also concerning external activities, I just think it has to be very, very, very easy to be compliant, very easy, and compared to that, difficult to be non-compliant. And you also need to use these online opportunities and these digital opportunities to make it very easy for people to be compliant, to upload their invoices easily with an app, for example, to get reminders with your app, with this app, And if you have a question, you immediately can press a button and there is an officer asking you what you need and so on. So it should be really, we should see taxpayers as customers, partners maybe, and offer them the perfect service to be compliant, because most of them, there are so many jokes about it and comics where people don't want to do their tax return, and it's something that it's always postponed and so on. So you already see that it's actually at the moment nothing nice to do. And we should try to help people to make this a little bit of a more nicer experience to do your tax return. And I think there are opportunities to do this. It's not a natural law that doing your taxes has to be the least thing you want to do. I mean, nobody determines that this has to be like it. So I really invite developers and all kinds of people to think about ways how we could make this a better experience and an easy experience. But we always should keep in mind that technology cannot, we still need the people behind this technology. It still has to be possible to reach someone in person, because only if you interact with a person, at least this is important in Austria, let's say in Estonia, they maybe prefer to interact with a computer, but in Austria, people still want to have this personal contact in addition to an easy technological solution. And this is what I hope that some developers will come up with a nice opportunity that doing your taxes is very easy. You run around, make a picture, automatically the numbers taken out and collected, things like that. That would be nice. I mean, of course, it's again something that not every country can implement. But I really like the approach. It's from Pakistan, and it's how can you motivate wealthy people to pay taxes? And what they did was, to honest taxpayers, they rewarded honest taxpayers by granting them the opportunity to use the fast lane at the airport. And I think this is it really worked. So people wanted to be on the list of the honest taxpayers just to use this fast lane on the airport. And I think this is a very, really innovative idea how you can motivate people to contribute by status, for example. This is a very nice idea I like. Of course, you cannot implement it everywhere, but maybe some people now have their own ideas how you can reward people in a very nicely innovative way to motivate them to pay more taxes. Based on that, I had another idea how you can reward people, also related to giving more voice to wealthy taxpayers. For example, you could say, okay, the most honest not just wealthy, but everyone, the honest taxpayers, maybe we could have a lottery, and among the most honest, we collect some, and they will form a committee, and this committee has the right to work together with the administration, tax administration, but maybe also with the government on new tax legislation, on new ways of tax collection and so on. So it would mean, because in the end, the honest taxpayers pay for everything. So actually they should have also much more rights what to do. And of course, we have to think of ways to make it from a democratic perspective, okay. But among the most honest, we could select a committee. It should be prestigious to be part of this committee. And then you also want to be part of this committee, because then you can talk to the government. No, we need this or that, and we should spend more money in this subject, or we should improve the tax collection. And you could allow the committee to advise, let's say, just local governments or the government, the national government, whatever. But this would be also an idea how you could somehow increase voluntary compliance, because it means that the honest are those who are better off. The honest, they have more opportunities, and not the evaders have more opportunities, because they are caught by our tax administration staff. Yeah, I think concerning the financial problems that many people now face because of Corona, we have to consider that many now want to get back the money via tax cheating and also black labor. So now people lost their job, their businesses. Maybe they moved to an unemployment status and still continue working. Somehow, of course, you all can understand that, but we just have to take care that this is not becoming a habit and that we soon get them back. Now it's crisis, okay. Many people struggle to survive. But we have to take care that this kind of individual survival mode is not going to be a habit, and that we soon can motivate these people to start contributing to the common good again. Maybe also by showing how we use the money to help them. But of course, they have to believe us. And at the moment, conspiracy theories are pretty popular, so it's for sure not easy to make a communication that is believed by many. Telling them the state is really using the money in a good way. I don't know whether but if you manage to tell a story that people can believe, you should try now to tell people, look, because of the tax contributions of our community in the past, we now can afford to help all of these businesses and to pay out all of this money, because then people think, okay, I got something and at a later stage I will return. So it's a form of reciprocity that you can build up, but it's tricky. At least we should not just think that people's tax compliance is unaffected by this crisis. It's affected and somehow we should react to it. Depends what our fellow citizens vote for. This is, I think, a key. At the moment, I have the feeling that these populists are losing ground, but we'll see. If on other days I think, oh God, Trump will win again. We don't know. It really depends on how people decide who should rule our country. This will depend how many tax officers are allowed to catch evaders. The political leadership determines whether we are really shutting down tax havens. For example, in Europe, there are many things that work, and it continues to become better and better and so on. But still, we have really tax havens within Europe. Actually, every industrialized country is also a tax haven for a specific group of foreigners. That's typical. And and this is a little bit of a hypocrisy, because how can we motivate our own people, that they should be honest, if at the same time we allow foreigners to cheat on taxes in their country based on some constructs we implemented. So it's a political thing in the end, and it depends on what people vote for. In Europe, I don't know what the next elections will bring, but I think it depends on the people, what they want and what they believe in. So this
All
is
right.
Generally I'm optimistic. I have to, but no, sometimes I'm not. If it comes to the environmental challenges, I'm very pessimistic, and this will cost so much money, and we have to, and I don't know how we should pay for it. If we just think how much money it will cost to pay for all the natural disasters that will destroy our common property, it will cost so much money. And the question is, where does the money come from? So this makes me a little bit pessimistic. I don't know, I'm mixed. It depends whether I ate something or not, and whether I talk to nice people at the moment that motivate me or not. I'm mixed at the moment.